Welcome to Talent Titans, the podcast where we bring you entrepreneurs and leaders from the global staffing industry. I'm your host, Suky Sodhi. Now let's jump right on in and welcome today's Titan. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Talent Titans. Today I have Harmeen Johal with me from Talencia. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, amazing. So we are talking about that startup, that soulpreneur journey today. But before we do that, Harmeen, do you want to tell people who you are?
Yes, so I have been in the recruitment and staffing industry for almost 15 years now. Came into it very randomly, literally walking into a staffing agency looking for a new position, something in administration or sales. I really was at a crossroads in my career. I did not know what I wanted to do with my career. And the person that was working there said, I think you should work here. And so that's kind of how it started.
It's funny because that's how I started. Walked into an agency and I said to them, I don't want to do this, don't want to do this, don't want to. So I had a do not want, but I had nothing on my want list.
Yeah.
Right? So you joined Randstad.
Yes.
Tell me about that time. And I think we should also mention you're based in Montreal, Quebec.
So I'm based out of Montreal, yeah, and specializing now, with Talencia, specializing in permanent hires, accounting and finance, HR, administration. So when I joined Randstad, so before Randstad, I was a travel agent. So just a little side note, very similar in a sense, there's a lot of research involved, a lot of analyzing, a lot of matchmaking when you're a travel agent, making sure that you're matching the perfect vacation to, the perfect family, etc. So when I walked into the Randstad office, it was almost like a no-brainer. The girl who was working there, Lisa, still good friends with her, she looked at me and she said, you know what, I really think you should work here. Sent me over for an interview, pretty much got the job on the spot. And then starting at Randstad, I started mostly in administration, permanent hires always. Then they created an accounting and finance division. I was asked if I wanted to join that division and I decided to take the leap. It was downtown, but it seemed like it was going to fit with what I was looking for. And it was, I really loved the idea of creating something new. So I joined that accounting and finance team, stayed in accounting and finance for multiple years, then got a little bored, decided to go into the engineering division, and with Randstad, big multinational company, but they're very open to letting you move around within the organization. So I feel really fortunate that I was able to touch on different aspects of recruitment. And did 1 year in engineering, realized it wasn't for me. It was really like an AM/RM model. Okay. And that just wasn't for me. I'm a 360 girl. I need to have my hands in. I need to be able to, control the process from A to Z. So I realized that fairly quickly after 1 year working with recruiters. And then after that, so I decided to go back to accounting and finance and had another good run of a few years. And then I hit a wall. So I did go through 2 back-to-back maternity leaves. I had 2 baby boys while I was at Randstad. And when I came back from my second mat leave, I had my best year ever. So I think it was 2022. We know that era, 2021, 2022, amazing years. Very sad that I missed out on 2021, but I was at home with my baby. But 2022 had my best year ever. I was managing a team, killed the sales. It was really an amazing year. I really felt like I had grown so much, really evolved, loved managing a team at that time. And after that, I had hit a wall. So the beginning of 2023, I remember sitting at my desk and just not even wanting to answer emails anymore. And it was very weird for me because I'm a performer. I'm a high performer. I'm a very consistent person, consistent with my KPIs. So that was very difficult. It was a very difficult time. I remember one of my managers saying, just take like a week off. You probably just need a bit of time off. And coming back after a week off, I was like, no, there's something wrong here. So I ended up consulting and realizing that I was going through a professional burnout. So that was a very difficult time in my life. I think it was, having 2 young boys, like under the age of 2 years old at home, working many hours a week, really thriving, but too involved with work and not involved enough in my home life. There was a few other aspects that contributed to the burnout as well. I don't know if you know much about burnout.
Yeah.
It's
sadly in our industry.
It's a lot in our industry. It's crazy. I know so many people.
Now we're recognizing it. But we
Yes.
didn't, oh God, it sounds really old, but back in the day, and it took COVID for us to recognize it.
Yes. So some of the signs of burnout can be, obviously being overworked. But funny enough, there's also that lack of recognition. So that happened to me within this organization where I felt, I was ready for that next step. I wanted that next promotion. I felt I had proved myself. And unfortunately, you have to wait on someone else to give you a promotion when you're
Yep.
in the big corporate world. You don't make those decisions. I mean, you can push for it as much as you want, but ultimately there are decision makers that are going to make that decision. So I think that was a little part as well, that, you feel like you're working so hard and then you're questioning for what? Yes, I made all this money. Great.
Yep.
Obviously we can make a lot of money in our industry. It's wonderful, but there's also more to life. So it was almost like a midlife crisis. I was like almost hitting 40, with the two young kids at home and realizing, okay, what do I really want here? So at that point, I had decided to take a few months off, and I ended up coming back to this multinational company, and I decided to step away from the recruitment. So I ended up coming back in a national strategic sales role, like managing really big clients, like super fun clients. I honestly, I did enjoy that role. However, I was missing that adrenaline piece of the recruitment. So for me, it's really, you get that
Going back to that
adrenaline,
360.
going back to that 360, that,
Yep.
having the control. I guess like maybe I am a little bit of a control, you like to have control over everything. And when you're in a strategic sales role, I mean, you could bring in all the business you want, but then, you're relying on other people to fill business, right?
Yep.
So I came back, I did the strategic sales. And then last summer, I realized, oh gosh, like I miss recruitment. And I also felt that I was ready for a change after 12 years. I was there almost 12, 13 years within this organization. So I decided to reach out to an old colleague of mine who had started his own firm based out of Toronto. And I started with them. I mean, on the spot, they wanted to hire me. I know that you and I have spoken about this before, but I was 100% commission based. So that, I know for people, it's not super common, and not many people will decide to take that leap. But I'm a very confident person. I know how good I am at this job, and I knew it was only going to be a matter of time. And I really believe in manifestation, and obviously you really have to work towards your goals. But I knew it was going to happen. I knew, and I trusted this person very much as well, and I knew that he would help me. Well, that this organization, this smaller firm in Toronto, that they would help me get, get to my objectives, I suppose. So I went on with them for 6 to 8 months. And it was great. Once again, very successful. I had a really great time with them. But at one point, I did realize that maybe I was lacking a bit of, like, I don't want to say flexibility, because they really did give all the flexibility in the world. I mean, at the end of the day, I was kind of like an independent person. They weren't paying me a salary or anything like that. But they did, they offered insurance. They offered, a lot of perks, a lot of traveling to Toronto. And, they really treated me well, and really great group team dynamic. But there was something that kind of, not necessarily that was missing. I did do a bit of an analysis over the last 6 months that I was there with them, to kind of see, okay, how did my sales go? I kind of missed out on one point though. So I will just backtrack a little bit, that in January of this year, I had gone for coffee with an old colleague that started her own firm in Montreal. She's more on the industrial sector. She grew her firm quite big, up to, I don't know, 10, 12 employees. And she wanted me to start her accounting and finance division. And so I thought about it. And I remember her asking me during that coffee chat, I just don't understand why you haven't gone out on your own yet. And it really got me thinking. So that night, go home, talk with my husband. I remember calling up my older brother, who's a business coach, who has owned businesses as well, and having the discussion with him and just saying, listen, I kind of have these two options in front of me. Either I can go back into another firm and like start a division from scratch. But I was doing that anyways, right? So I was already doing that with the company from Toronto, or I could go out on my own. And that's when I kind of did the analysis of the last 6 to 8 months. And I realized that I pretty much had brought in the majority of the business, and I'd filled every single position on my own. I'm truly a one-woman show.
But you're giving 50, 40, 50%
50%, yes. So that too, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm tired of giving away my money. At a certain
Fair
point,
point.
you're like, I mean, yes, they provided the resources, but I mean, obviously when you're sitting down and doing a financial analysis of, what the cost is versus how much money I'm giving up, I realized fairly quickly, wait a second here, it's like I could have made X amount more money had I just been out on my own. So that's kind of how it happened. I just realized, you know what? I'm tired of giving away my commissions. I have the network, I have the years of experience, I have the expertise, I have the specializations. What is stopping me from going out on my own? Um, and that's kind of how it came about.
Amazing, because I can tell you right now, there are so many people listening to this who are in that quote unquote 100% commission shops,
Mm,
questioning
yeah.
why are they giving away. Now, I want to be clear here. We're not talking about people that are on a draw and are T4 employees or W2 employees if we're talking US. But I want to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you pinpoint when you said, love you, Randstad, you've given me an amazing 12 years, but can you kind of look back at it and say, that was the moment I said, I'm done?
Yes, there was a moment. Not sure how comfortable I feel talking
Okay,
about it because
give
I
the
mean
high level.
it was a tough moment, unfortunately. There was a meeting that I had with a couple of individuals in the organization, and I realized at that point that maybe I wasn't in the right spot. And I felt I have to choose my words wisely. Because it was a pivotal moment. Literally because that last meeting, I remember it very clearly. It was on a Friday afternoon, and I was so upset after that meeting. I really felt like I wasn't, I felt I can't get too much into the details because I mean it is kind of like a weird situation. But there was, unfortunately, it was just a negative meeting that I had, and I think there was an accumulation as well. The division was fairly new for the strategic sales, and it was funny. It was like some people in the organization didn't quite they weren't able to wrap their heads around the division and the necessity for it and the reason for it. And so, I mean, I had the stress of trying and going out and opening these doors with these clients. And it was more of a farmer role that I had. It wasn't a hunter role. I mean, it was companies that, we had a well-established relationship with, but that we wanted to grow the market share with. And so, there was just a few meetings like that just kept happening that I realized, wait a second here. I feel like I'm like pushing against the grain. Like I feel like I'm going against the wave. I felt there was no flow. And I feel that after that one meeting, I remember being very upset that night. And the next morning, literally waking up and messaging this person on LinkedIn, this person that has the staffing firm in Toronto, and just saying, get me out of here. Like, I got to get out of here.
It's interesting because very rarely do we have, okay, everything's fantastic and then boom, right? Something happens and we're
There's an
out of there. It's an
accumulation.
accumulation.
It is.
But a couple of things I want to say to that. Split desk model is very, very hard because you're only as good as your counterpart. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
recruiter, you're only as good as the sales quality of orders the salespeople are bringing in. If
Mm-hmm.
you're on the sales side, you're only as good as the quality of candidates the recruiter brings in,
Right.
right? So I do get that. And it sounds to me as if that final Friday afternoon, you realized you weren't heard.
Yeah.
You weren't heard. You weren't quote unquote valued. Now, so I want
Yes.
to be clear here.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean that the leaders were bad because they've
No,
got their agenda and their objectives and what
exactly.
have you. But it's really interesting because I hear it from so many people. They're in
Mm-hmm.
an organization. They're the ones that are in the trenches, so to speak. But leadership, and that doesn't matter whether it's middle management or board level, they're not hearing it because they're disconnected from that.
Mm-hmm.
Some intentionally, some are too busy. So that makes sense to me.
And a
But
lack of communication, I would say,
yep,
unfortunately, a lack of communication and a lack of alignment.
yep,
Especially when something new is coming into play at one of, at a large organization, the message has to be communicated properly across all the boards, and it seemed like there was, like I said, lack of communication, lack of alignment, unfortunately. And I just got kind of caught up in that mix.
yeah,
And, honestly, I don't think I would have ever left this organization. Well, I mean, things happen in life, but they had asked me to stay on. Some people had asked if I wanted to stay on and go back in recruitment within the organization. But at that point, I really felt I was also ready for a change. 12 years is a long time in a company,
But
right?
when you feel you're not heard, and I use the word valued very loosely in this context, offering you something else it's almost like we're taking a problem from here and we're going to put it over there. Right? It's different if you say, you know what, I don't enjoy accounting and finance, or I don't enjoy whatever that might be. That's kind of easy to solve. But when you start hitting those emotional strings, that's a hard one to come back from.
And I feel like due to the burnout that I experienced, I had a major growth after that burnout, right? I mean, I really realized, what am I going to take and what am I not going to take? Like at a certain point, you don't want to take any crap anymore either, right? And you kind of, and you realize also what's important in life. Like, should I be feeling negative emotional feelings at work? I mean, it depends, right? I mean, there's going to be ups and downs. It's very normal, especially in a sales job, right? I mean,
especially in recruiting.
In recruiting, we live in ups and downs. I mean, I have lived this for the majority of my life now. But when it does come to collaboration with colleagues, or, at a certain point, you kind of realize it's just not worth it. Like, why am I feeling this way? I shouldn't be meant to feel this way. So, yeah.
I think I want to expand on something you've just said here, and I'm paraphrasing. You went through this burnout. Almost sounds as if you didn't recognize it as burnout until, quote unquote, towards the latter end. But one thing I'm hearing you done, and sadly not everybody does this, you actually evaluated what's important to you, your family.
Yes.
You didn't allow fear of, oh my God, I must keep this job, and go back to you changed your circumstances.
I did.
You took control.
I did.
Right. And I think that's really, really powerful, because you didn't say, I'm leaving the company. You didn't say any of that. You didn't say, here's my resignation, long-term sick, stuff like that. And again, anybody that's had to go down that path, I'm not saying they've done wrong, but I'm talking about your particular case. And you looked at it and said, okay, what am I prepared to tolerate?
Yes.
What am I prepared not to tolerate? And even prepared to tolerate, I'll take that one step further. No, it's like there's only one or two possible things in there.
Yeah.
Right? Everything else is, no, I'm coming back on, quote unquote, my terms.
Well, I think I did a lot of research, because as you said, and I did not know I was going through a burnout. I never understood what burnout was until I went through it. So what happened was, when this happened, and I like I said, I consulted a doctor, and they said, "Ooh, this is what you're going through at the moment." And I was like, my God, like, I never would have expected this to happen to me. There was a lot of feelings and a lot of stages there, right? You feel all of a sudden this shame, almost like, I'm letting everyone down. There's a lot of feelings of shame when it comes to burnout. You're letting your team down. You're letting your colleagues down. I mean, I had a team that I was managing. I was letting them down. I had colleagues I was collaborating with. That's how I felt, So there was a lot of, and the shame of, I'm taking time off work. Like, I come from a very hardworking family. Both my parents worked their whole lives, overtime, all kinds, So it was very difficult to come to the realization that this is the only way I'm going to get through it. I need to take some time off. I worked with a life coach. I did daily yoga and gym. There's a lot of physical activity that you need to do as well to rebalance yourself.
Yep.
I questioned my purpose. I read a lot of books. I read a lot on burnout. So all of these tools did help me overcome. And the burnout is what led me to where I am today. That I can tell you right now, even though, I had some stepping stones in between, but I can tell you that the burnout that I experienced was a big wake up call for me. And I realized what I wanted and what I didn't want in life.
It's interesting, because as you were talking earlier, I was thinking, there's her pivotal moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. The burnout.
The burnout. Yeah.
Right. So I'm glad you said that before I asked that question, because And you were very fortunate in the sense that you took a
I
step
caught
back.
it. I caught it early on too,
Yeah,
just to say.
yeah,
I knew right away there was for me, if I'm sitting at my desk and I'm not able to answer an email to a client,
something's wrong.
what's wrong? Like what's happening here? Why do I not want
Yeah,
to, what is happening? Like I don't want to take this phone call. I don't want to answer this client. It's like, oh, okay, wait a second. There's something deeper happening here. So it's
yeah,
about recognizing the signs is very important.
yeah. And you're able to do that. There are so many people that are not able to do
No.
that for a number of different reasons. So that was your pivotal moment.
Yeah.
I want to fast forward, not the stint with the Toronto company. It's really interesting because a lot of people are working again T4 WT roles like you were, and they're making however much they're billing, and they look at it and they say, "Oh well, I'm only getting X," and they fail to take into account all the stuff a company on a for
Mm-hmm.
employees what they offer.
Yeah.
I hear it so many times. I can do this by myself. No, you can't, because you know what? They look at the market, money they're investing in marketing.
It
They
takes
look at
money
the
to make
benefits.
money. Yeah.
Correct. Takes a lot, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't look at it like that. You said, no, I know I'm going to give 50 points away when you
Mm-hmm.
went to this Toronto company. But then you came to that realization that, hang on a second, because I'd done the calculations roughly after you and I spoke yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
taking away travel, entertainment, things like that. I calculated roughly your cost was about 10 grand a year,
Mm.
roughly speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but you're giving away 50 points. Um, a lot of people look at it and say, well, I'm going to give away 50 points, but they expect this much for that 50 points. Like, I'm just going to use an example. Okay, someone's going to do all the recruitment. I'm going to be given orders to work on. I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that. In that trade, I understand that 50 points. But
Yeah.
you literally built your own,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And that was in my mind, that was your second pivotal moment, that realization.
And it only hit me. The funny thing is, I never really even thought about it. Like, it only hit me after that coffee chat with an old colleague that I sat down and I did this analysis. And I was like, oh my Lord, I think I filled like 15 roles. And out of the 15, three came from, their leads and database and whatever. And the rest for me. And then in terms of the recruitment, forget about it. There's no one else in Montreal at the time. I mean, I was alone. I did all the recruitment myself from A to Z, so at that point you kind of realize where is the value. Unfortunately, I mean, there was other aspects of value, and some people do want that team aspect. They
Well,
do
I was
want to
going to
work.
come to that
Right.
team part, but sounds like you didn't have in that particular just infancy for Montreal, right? If you wanted to quote unquote go and have a drink with a colleague, you had to get on a plane or drive 4 hours.
Well, there was someone that joined a few months before I left, so I did
Okay,
have that a little bit of a support. That was nice, but I hate saying it. I didn't need it. Like I
yeah,
kind of didn't, I just didn't. I realized that I didn't need it, but I did enjoy the time that I did spend with
yep,
this amazing group of people. I mean, I felt a connection with them from day one. I was so happy that they took me on, so
yep.
I really am appreciative of that company, and I still hold good relationships with them. But I realized at that point as well that I love working by myself. Like I'm very good at it. I am a one woman show. I've proved this to myself time and time again. And I'm just, I guess maybe a little bit, it's funny. People think I'm a big extrovert, but I am maybe a little bit of an introvert. I like having my time for myself. I don't want to have to go on weekly meetings. I don't, it's like things like that, I guess.
Well, the whole idea of being self-employed is nobody tells me what to do,
That too. Although I
right?
didn't feel
I
that
don't
way too
I
much,
don't
but
have
yeah.
to attend a meeting if I don't want to,
Hmm.
right? So I'm just talking
Yeah.
generalizing here. If we're being really honest, your entrepreneurial journey started 7 or 8 last summer, whenever that was,
Hmm.
right? That's where you really went self-employed. You, in my mind, certainly have only changed the dynamics of the finances, because
Hmm.
you said you pretty much you were doing a 360 role, covering the roles and what have you. So now that you're doing it by yourself, you're by yourself. you
Mhm.
enjoy your company, you're working from home. Would you have, if you were having your time again, would you do that stint in between, or would you just go employed straight to self-employed on your own terms?
So, what's interesting about that, because I have questioned it myself, I realized after leaving a large corporate firm, you know, after 12, 13 years of being within this organization, I I left there unfortunately lacking some confidence, and that was with a few incidents that had happened along the way
Yeah.
that, I left there. Yeah, I'll say it, and I'm a very open person. I'm no shame about talking about this kind of stuff, but I was lacking confidence, a little bit. Obviously, I had enough confidence to go to a 100% commission
Yep.
role, but I didn't even think it was an option for me to open up my own firm. It wasn't even a thought that came into my mind. I literally just decided to go and work for someone else again. Um, Thinking back, would I change it? I mean, of course, if I had the confidence back then, I would have made so much more money, but
Yeah.
like,
It's
but
really
it's not just about
interesting.
the money, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's just interesting. Your automatic assumption from being an quote unquote employee was your only option is to be an employee.
Yeah. Which is
Now,
weird
you
because,
changed it because
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
mindset thing because you
it
weren't an
is.
employee, you were self employed still.
Yes. Yeah, very
But
much.
because you were quote unquote part of another organization, that employee piece
I
is,
wasn't ready. I just wasn't
yeah,
ready at that time. And I think everything happens for a reason. So, and I do think I needed this experience with the smaller firm. Once again, I guess to give myself that confidence. I proved to myself that I was able to do this all by myself. So it was a
but
no-brainer.
it's interesting because I speak to so many people that are in a larger organization. They want to go out on their own,
Hmm.
right? And they do. More fail than succeed because let me rephrase that. It becomes a lifestyle business. They're very much like, you know what? If I do 100 grand with the various tax, I'm good, right? Or
Hmm.
150, take whatever number you want to make that. But they don't truly create a business. They don't truly say, you know what, I want to make 500,000 or whatever that might be. And I think part of that is they bring that employee mindset into their business and probably not even aware of it, in all honesty. So
Hmm.
it's like suddenly there is no quote unquote structure. You don't have to attend an 8:30 meeting. You don't have to present your plan. You don't have to worry about bringing
Right.
job
There's
orders on
almost
or
no
candidates.
accountability. There's almost
Yeah,
like who's keeping you accountable. So
yeah,
it's really interesting that you're bringing this up because for myself, when I did start the business in March, I gave myself an objective. I don't mind saying it. I said I'm going to do 25,000 a month. And I exceeded that objective in my first 4 months. So now the summer hits. And so I'm still learning, right? I mean,
yep,
this is all new to me as well. And part of the reason, I mean, I know, we spoke briefly about, what I maybe want to grow this business eventually. I don't know. At the moment, being a one woman show, enjoying this, there are a few reasons why I decided to do this as well. And one of them was for an even better work life balance.
yep,
Having the two young kids at home, being able to enjoy my summer. Life is short. I don't want to be working 24/7. That's not what I want to do. I want to take vacation when I want to take vacation. Obviously, when you're alone, you do have clients to account for. I mean, I was in Mexico in June for a week with my children and I worked 2 hours, but that 2 hours brought in 13,000. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it was no problem for me to say to my husband, I have to go back to the room. I have some back to back interviews I need to manage right now. There's this amount on the line. And he said, go for it, babe. Just go. Why
yeah.
not? So I did that on vacation and it was fine. I was still able to get a good break. Where was I going with that? Was that, yeah, well, right now I'm at this kind of like, okay, so now it's been 3 weeks that I'm on vacation, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, because I made such a good amount of money the first 4 months. And now I'm like, well, if I want, I could take the summer off and I could go back, and I know that September to December, I already know how much money I'm going to make. I already know. I know what I made last year, September to December. I'll probably exceed that this September to December. But um but at the same time, it is difficult because you want to keep that momentum going, right? You like, so I work with a social media manager who is my niece. She's phenomenal. And so like this time where, I am taking a bit of time off, in a sense, I still have one or two roles that I'm working on, but I'm not doing crazy amounts of business development at the moment. I'm enjoying my summer. I'm enjoying my children. I'm taking it day by day. And I know that at some point the hustle will come back, because this is also something I've realized in my career, even working for a large firm, things are very cyclical in recruitment, right?
Yep.
They are cyclical. They do slow down a little bit in the summer, but not necessarily. I know that if I put the work in, I would be working on 5, 6 positions if I wanted to. But at the moment, I don't want to work 5, 6 positions. So I do want to, and right now what I decided to do, instead of putting that time into the business development, I'm putting a little bit more time in my marketing. I'm doing podcasts. I'm doing photo shoots. I'm gathering content for my marketing, for my branding, which is also so important as an entrepreneur. It is work.
Because before you had someone else taking care of all of that.
Yeah, I didn't have to worry about that stuff. So now this is a big part. So I said, you know what? Let me just enjoy this. Yesterday I went for a wonderful photo shoot, and it was great. Now I'm doing a great podcast with you. I enjoy this kind of stuff too, So it's,
because one of the hats you have to wear. You've got to wear many hats, right?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because you have created your business and you've kind of found that hybrid between that lifestyle business, but you're also still very competitive, aggressive in your plan, results, outcomes. You're setting yourself accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting. You're kind of ebbing and flowing in many ways.
Because it took a lot of work to get here, though. And I can tell you that last week I felt guilty. Last week, I was sitting at home saying, I need to put the work in. I need to put the work in. I need to go and get more business and this and that. And I had a conversation with myself and even with my husband, and just talking it out and saying, you did really good for your first 4 months. You kicked it. You nailed it. You really kicked it out of the park, or however they say it, hit it out of the park. So I worked very hard for those 4 months. And I think it's also important to see, and once again, going back to my burnout, you cannot be on 24/7, 12 months out of the year.
No.
You have to take a little bit of a dip. And the problem is a lot of people don't, and this is something I'm working on still, is when I am in a more quiet time, to not feel guilty about it and to enjoy this quiet time and not feel like, oh, there's this I could do. There's this I could do. And yes, there's 20 billion things you could do. There's another email you could write or whatever it is. But I think it's a matter of just accepting to ride the wave. So
I'm laughing because I've been self-employed 30 something years, and I work most Sunday mornings. Just on the business, not in the business, right?
But I don't work Fridays. So I don't know if you, I don't know if do you work 5 days a week and Sunday morning or?
Yeah. Okay. Fridays, I don't do any meetings. I'm work Monday
to
Wednesday,
hours in the morning.
Typically in the office. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, I'm working from home, and it's a combination of in and on the business.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, it's all on the business.
Okay.
Right. So I don't interview candidates. I don't take client calls unless.
Yeah. There's always
happens,
that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't do that. And then Saturdays, I don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, I'll do that working on the business.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So that kind of stuff. But the reason I was smiling is this weekend, I knew I had a lot of work I needed to get done for the Sunday. And come Sunday, it was hot, all of that. Right. And I was like, you know what, I'll go upstairs. And normally I'll go up 9:30, 10 to my office. Right. And just pump it out. I didn't do that. I quote unquote, missed that window. The funny thing is, instead of working, I ended up binge watching Adolescence on Netflix.
Okay.
I binge watched. Thank God it's only 5.
I haven't seen it yet.
But it's really good. It's 5 episodes. It's one of those limited ones. And I watched the first 4 back to back.
Wow.
And you know what I felt guilty about? Wasn't the fact that I didn't do my work. It's like, damn, I've got to get a workout in. I've got to get a workout in. So between episode 4 and 5, dashed upstairs. Now I'm lucky I've got a gym at home, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
dashed upstairs, got changed, went down, done the gym, came back, watched episode 5. I didn't work at all. I
What
did
a
not feel
beautiful
guilty for
day.
not. Yeah, I did
That's it,
not
and
feel
not feeling
guilty not
guilty.
working, but I
Mm-hmm.
felt guilty not doing my friggin' workout,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm exactly the same. If
right?
I miss it in the morning, oh God, it's not a good day. I mean, I was at the
Yeah.
gym at 6:30 this morning. So, I up at 5:30, gym at 6:30. I got to get it done first thing in the morning or else it doesn't get done throughout the day.
But that's the beauty of being self-employed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Beauty of being self-employed, because you can control it. But what you're also doing is you're not just saying, feast or famine,
Right.
right? That feast or famine piece. And I know it can happen even if you're an employee, I get that. But when you're an employee, you still have a paycheck, a bi-weekly paycheck.
Yeah.
When you're self-employed, if you end up in that rut, or if you don't have a plan and you don't see it coming, that's where
That sounds very
it's,
scary to me. It's
it is.
and I'm in and out of that, like I said, the last few weeks where it's like, financially we're fine, right? I mean, we're, like I said, I don't have to work all summer if I don't want to. I don't have to work for the rest of the year if I don't want to, but I am so passionate about what I do. I do want to get back into it, but it was funny because this week I thought to myself, geez, this is just the most obvious example of how all or nothing I am. I am an all or nothing person. Either I give like 500% or I give nothing. It's very difficult for that in between. So now being
Yep.
self-employed, I'm realizing that because either I have to be like full on hustling, putting in the hours, working on multiple positions, getting that, that adrenaline going, or if I'm in a more down period, it's not easy to get yourself out of this little down
No.
period. It's something I'm working on at the moment. I keep telling myself, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna make some calls, or but then this week, like I said, I decided, you know what? No, I'm gonna enjoy myself this week, and next week I'll get to it, and it's fine. And then you're always gonna miss out on a business. You're always gonna miss out on that one
100%.
order or whatever it is. But I can't get this time back. So it's about finding that balance in a sense. It's a work in progress.
But also, even as you're self-employed, the money coming in is still not all your own, in the sense that you've got
There's
bills to pay now,
expenses. Yeah.
right? There's expenses, taxes come
That you have to
February
keep account
following
for.
it, all of that
Yeah.
stuff, right? So,
For sure.
what would you say was the biggest learning? So, somebody who's currently self-employed and they are kind of just in that flunk, and they have been for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
What advice would he give them?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think I would sit down and write my plan and go backwards. Almost this is something I learned at Randstad, It's doing the plan backwards. So you're looking at, what is it called? A work back plan. You're looking at, okay, how much money do I want to make this year? How much money do I need to make, right? To cover
Yep.
my expenses, my expenses at home, my expenses for business, and vacations, keeping an account, everything, lifestyle, all of that. How much money do I want to make? And you do the analysis, and especially in our case as a self-employed person, you have to also keep in mind all of the taxes that you're going to have to pay and everything like that too. I literally just cut everything into half. I'm like, whatever I make, half goes into my pocket and half is going to go to taxes and expenses and whatnot, more or less. You kind of obviously there's better numbers up. I work with an accountant as well, but I would say sit down and make a plan, motivate yourself, think about, well, how much money do I want to make? And this is kind of cheesy maybe, but I've been known to be very consistent with my KPIs, and I always had very strict KPIs. So I also know how many phone calls is it going to take for me to go get that order? How many orders do I need? And honestly, even now, I have been looking back at the last 4 months. I've been looking at my fill rate. Okay, how many positions did I receive in the last 4 months and how many did I fill? Okay, so now I know I filled, let's say 60% or whatever the amount might be. And then you have to do that analysis. Well, how many positions do I need to bring in? If I want to fill one position per week and my fill rate's 50%, I know I got to go get 2 positions a week. How do I get 2 positions a week? How many phone calls do I need to make? How many emails do I need to send out? Although I do feel that it has evolved for me, it's not the same as it was when I was maybe more junior or working in a large firm. I work smarter and not harder now. So I utilize my network. So at the beginning, the first 4 months, I can tell you, I think I maybe did 4 phone calls and the positions were just rolling in. It was my content on LinkedIn. You have to be very present on your socials. If you want people to hear about you or look at you and say, oh, wow, like I would want to work with her. It's all about network as well, and your personal branding and making sure that you're going about your networking properly as well. So there's a few factors in there, but I mean, I feel like just talking to you about this, I'm getting motivated again. I'm excited to get back on the phone.
You're going to make some sales calls. It's
There
really
you go.
interesting because what you've done, you're speaking my language when it comes to building that personal brand, right? You have to be active on social media correctly. In the past, you've had somebody else doing that for you, as an employee. But also, I love the fact that you've looked at what used to work for you. You've kept the equation the same, fill rates, all of that stuff, right? So the formula, beg your pardon, you've kept it the same. But you know what? Instead of having to do that much, you're like, I'm happy with this. But the formula is still
The formula is still there, but now I know I don't need to make 50 calls to go and get 2 positions anymore. I literally can do 1 or 2 phone calls and I know that the positions are going to come in because of my network. So that is something that takes time to build.
But also your social media investment.
Social media investment. I mean, I invested a lot starting the business. I invested a good 10,000. I invested, I got myself incorporated right away. I knew how much money I was going to make. So I got myself incorporated right away. I invested a lot of money in my marketing, in my branding. I invested in the resources that I use as well, right? So, I mean, I got my LinkedIn recruiter knowing that. And at first, the first couple of months, I barely used it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so expensive. Why did I get this? And now I have managed to fill what I think out of 11 positions that I filled in 4 months, I filled 3 of them with LinkedIn recruiter. So I made my money back. So that's fine. But, it's about utilizing your resources in a smart way as well. But utilizing your network, I think to me, it's network. That's like my word of the year, let's say, that I've realized that it's not just about these cold. And you know what? I don't want to do cold calls. I'm at a stage in my life where I don't need to do cold calls. I would prefer working with companies that know me. I prefer working with people even in my personal network. I filled about 2 positions through my personal network already through just word of mouth and, oh, you should call Harmeen to hire for you. And they did, So network, I think, is a big one.
And have you stayed 100% niche, i.e. accounting and finance?
So no. And I realized I don't have to. Yes, I am specialized in accounting and finance, but I'm also a very good headhunter. I can headhunt anything. You give me a LinkedIn recruiter, I have a good approach with passive candidates now. I mean, it took time. There's a lot of work that's involved as well, as with headhunting. It's not the same as posting and praying or posting and just receiving your CVs. But so far, I mean, I filled roles in engineering. I filled roles in administration, HR, accounting and finance. I mean, I'm touching a little bit of everything. I mean, if someone comes to me, let's say with an IT role, that unfortunately is really out of my scope and it's super technical. Although engineering, like I had mentioned in my 12 years at Randstad, I did do 1 year of engineering and I do have a very good understanding of it after 1 year. So, I can handle. But for the most part, I will always take my time to analyze the job description and think to myself, and I'll do a quick analysis on the market before I say yes to the client. Would I be able to fill this or not? I think I'd be able to fill it, and then, or not. And I might refuse it.
I love the fact that you're not just taking everything because you're fearful. Oh my God, I'm self-employed.
Not at all.
I need to get that revenue in, right? I think that's a massive thing. It's partly confidence, partly your process. You invested that $10,000 right from the get-go.
Yeah.
You've got your social media going. You've got your brand. You're starting to build your brand. So you didn't just say, okay, now I'm self-employed, but I'm not putting quote unquote money into it. Right? So you literally looked at it and you set it up as and I know I'm going to piss some people off, a real business.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
You set it up like that rather than, tomorrow I'm going to ring up and I'm just going to take my client list from my current employer and now I'm going to call him up and say, hey, I'm over here.
I didn't even have to do that. I did not do that. No.
Yeah. And there's so many reasons why you shouldn't do that, but then that'll take the conversation. Hey, look, I know we've gone over. Any final thoughts, comments?
No, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me for sure. I love being able to tell my story, especially about the burnout. I really hope this resonates with a lot of people. If anyone wants to reach out and talk, I'm super open about that. I'd love to help people get through their burnouts for sure. So that's something I'll be looking at in the future a little bit. Yeah. Especially working moms, very difficult. Yeah. So
it is. Well, look, thank you ever so much. And you know what? Maybe we do another podcast in a year and see what's changed.
I'd love that. Thank you so much, Suky.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talent Titans, brought to you by Recruitment Professional Forum, where they're building a grassroots community for professionals and leaders in the recruitment industry to collaborate, advocate, and advance the profession. If you liked or were inspired by what you heard, make sure to follow, subscribe, and even leave a review. It lets more talented recruiters like you find the show. Until next time, keep on being a talent titan.